Good morning, campers! We've made it! Well, most of us. It's the last day of camp, and I'm considering this year a huge success. Yes, we may have had a few ghosts and psychotic supernatural serial killers. And that incident with the Swedish death cult, and we never did find out what happened to Jessica. Oh, but you know what, campers? I think we did just fine. Archery class went well. You know, come to think of it, all of the weapons classes were very popular this year. And for good reason. Survival skills, campers. That's what we do best here at Camp Wannaslaya. We survive. And we thrive. Oh, God, again? Did someone let Nicolas out of his cage? His parents are not here to pick him up yet. Damn it, and we were so close to 0 incidents today. Oh well. Please don't forget to clean out your bunks before you leave. And of course, stay reasonably normal and stay alive. See you next season.
What's up, peoples? Welcome to Bunk 237, horror movie podcast, the imaginary summer camp we inhabit, where we fight ghosts and lake monsters and talk horror movies. I'm a host, Tuyet. What's up?
And I am also a host, Robin Zlotnick. It's me. And our guest today, guys, very special. It's Miles and Dave. You know Miles and Dave from the Heat-Seeking Panther podcast, the internet's foremost dive into the life and filmography of Nicolas Cage. What's up, Miles and Dave? Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks for having us, yeah.
This is great. We don't do too many of these crossovers.
Not enough people are inviting us onto their podcast. So.
I wonder why. It's almost like we have one specific
really
niche
thing
that no one else can adapt to. So I don't know.
Luckily, our two topics do meld on several occasions.
Now, today is a special episode, and the exact reason that you, our Nicolas Cage scholars, are here. One, it's the season finale first. We'll be taking a brief break after this, and we'll be back for season 3 eventually.
Gotta go out with a bang.
Yes, and that bang is the man, Nicolas Cage. And so today we are talking about representation, specifically the representation of Nicolas Cage in horror movies. We are living in the golden cage, the Cage age. This is the Cage gauge. I have a lot more puns. I have so many more puns. Don't even worry about it. So we came to you guys and asked you guys to come up with your top 3 Nicolas Cage horror movies. And we're going to go through them. We're going to blow through this. Awarding badges as we go. Are you guys ready to feel the cage?
Let's do it.
We've been ready
Always.
for years.
This is going on 5 years we've been ready to do this.
First of all, thank you for calling us scholars, because that really is our approach. You know, we try to do our homework and our research, and that's why we are the only Nicolas Cage podcast that you need to know about. Don't look for other ones. They don't exist.
How many Nicolas Cage movies have you seen?
100.
100?
It's got to be like pushing 100 probably. Yeah. I mean, how many does he have? And then we're about 7 or 8 from the finish line at this point.
Oh, wow.
So that many.
Yeah.
And I've seen a number of them more than once. I mean, some of the really good ones, like Adaptation or Raising Arizona, I've seen like 4 or 5 times. So I have watched a lot of Cage.
Yeah, we've been doing this since like 2016, I think.
Actually, it was the August of 2016. So it's like 5
crazy.
years almost exactly.
Wow.
How did you guys realize that you were both like Cage fanatics?
Well, Dave, you came to me with the idea.
I had started like a WordPress, I think, like a blog like or something, probably like 10 years ago, trying to do the same thing. And I don't know, I fell off of it, but I just thought it was, I mean, I really just wanted to go on the personal journey anyway of like, because there's just, the filmography of Nicolas Cage is about as rich a text on like the I don't know, filmmaking over the last like few decades as you could ask for. He's worked with pretty much everyone great, and he gives really bizarre performances. Some of them are amazing, some of them are less so, but it's just like, I don't know, it had just been sort of haunting me. And I also like, everyone wants to talk about him like he's like a meme, but I truly believe that he's one of the most interesting actors of his generation. And so,
he's 100% my favorite actor. I wouldn't have said that before I started doing the podcast. I always really like thought he was great, but honestly, he's the best actor ever. And I do agree that, I mean, you think about like last, 25, 30 years. I mean, he's like top 5 best in the business, I think.
Yeah,
but
I think so too. Yeah, who's his peer? Who are his peers? Keanu, I guess. But like, even like, who can pull out the kinds of performances that he does regularly?
Right.
And you never know what kind of performance he's going to give. It's Helen Mirren, who?
I'm sorry, Meryl. What?
Meryl. Who? Anyway, what were we talking about?
Nicolas Cage. We have never we haven't deviated in
we have
any
not
way.
strayed from the topic.
So I mean, so let's get into it.
Please.
So we asked you guys again to give us your top 3 Nicky Cage horror films, and your number 3 pick was Between Worlds, a 2018 possession story about a man mourning his dead wife and daughter, naturally, who, through a really quick moving encounter with a spiritual medium played by Franca Potenti, is given what he thinks is a second chance when the spirit of his dead wife takes over the body of a young woman. And guess what? Possession never ends well.
In this case, it doesn't begin well or go well.
I mean, it's pretty much like 100 minutes of not going well.
Right. I do have a question for you guys, because I know that in the world there are at least 4 Nicolas Cage horror movies. So why did this one make the list?
Yeah, why number 3 on this one?
So
That's
this
such a good question.
Yeah, and I would consider it, actually, I said this in my disclaimer to your producer, Shane, when he emailed us. I was like, I don't know if this one is really a horror movie strictly, but it is definitely creepy, and I think the tonally, it kind of pushes it into some uncomfortable territory. But mainly because it's... we could have gone with something like Wicker Man, which is a classic.
Wicker Man's the obvious one.
But like, we wanted to kind of focus on ones that hadn't been talked to death and maybe a lot of people didn't know about. And this was one of them that I would encourage anyone after this to go listen to our episode about it, because it's 90 minutes and there's a lot in there. But this movie hits the Venn diagram for us of just... It's like a cult thing that not a lot of people knew about. It flew under the radar, but it also
continues to fly. People still don't. This is from 2018, and people don't know about it really.
But also, we think Cage's performance in this movie specifically is like unparalleled. I think it is. He is off the hinges in this in a way that he like only like rarely hits for a scene or two in some other movies. But he is just pedal to the metal this entire fucking movie.
Yeah,
and
I would agree with that.
And the story, but like also the script, the direction, like why? Like what? Why?
Those were my questions.
Because like they're always stopping us on the street and asking us about like weird Nick Cage movies that they maybe haven't seen, and his films for the last like 10 years or so, like Miles was saying, he's like phones in a lot of kind of sleepy performances, but like, yeah, this one really hits all the marks of like, he is going for something really bizarre. The movie itself is going for something really bizarre, and like it like fails in pretty much every way, but a lot of the choices it makes are like, why, like you said.
Yeah, because it fails in the most interesting of ways. Like sometimes when movies fail, it's just boring or bad, and
Right.
it's like ugh. But when this one misses every mark, but where it lands is just like chef's kiss every time.
Right.
It's you can't make this movie on purpose. You couldn't do it.
Right.
People talk about The Wicker Man a lot, and I'm not as big a fan of that movie as a lot of people. Like, I feel like that's the moment when Cage really became like memeified, and people were like, this guy's crazy, the bees and everything. But like that movie, to me, for all of its like the bizarre choices that it makes, like it's kind of a slog to watch. Maybe it's all the like misogyny or like just I don't know, it's just like not as fun. But this one really deserves some eyes on it, because like it's really meta at points, and no one can do what he does in this one. I don't think no one could try.
I did like this movie. However, I do not know why. Like, I cannot. Usually, it's like pretty. I feel like it's usually pretty good for me to express like why I do or don't like a film. But this one was like, there's no reason why I should like this film. But I do like. I like Franca in it. I like Nicolas Cage in it. And my badge for this film, I wanted to award it the minimum wage Cage badge for this sort of this base level kind of portrayal of like a blue collar working class South. You know, he's like this truck driver. He has the tattoos, and there's motorcycles, and there's
he's a dirtbag.
Yeah, there's the head shop like tapestries. You know, which I think is just hilarious to have like beautiful Franca Potente in this movie as this sort of like. As like a European immigrant that landed in the South as a truck driver, like it's odd, but it makes sense. Even as this story is kind of like befuddling, because also like as a sort of spiritual medium, I don't understand her power. Like it's
so undefined.
It doesn't make sense, but she doesn't understand it either.
Right,
which kind of makes it okay.
Tuyet, when you read the synopsis, the thing that failed to leave out was that the body who Nick Cage's dead wife's spirit comes back and inhabits is Franca Potente's daughter.
It's her daughter.
So his girlfriend's daughter is like possessed by his dead wife, which makes
fucked.
it all. Which I mean, as if the premise already wasn't like, head spinning enough. You got to add that element to it. Is just unreal.
And then. Like toward in the last like 30-40 minutes of the movie, like you realize that his wife was clinically insane.
Oh
yes,
yeah, she's a bad
just
person.
completely like horrible.
What a twist
in every way. She was the murderer. She was mean.
Mean.
But I also didn't understand how she knew things about the daughter. Like there was that whole scene where she's like recounting the night that Franca's husband left. And I was like, you're not the daughter. How do you know this?
Such a good question.
There were no rules. She seemed to know everything about the daughter, but also be his wife.
Well, I think like you said, like the fact that Franca Potente's character kind of also doesn't know how her powers work, and like it like keeps it in this weird kind of like surreal like dream state. And I don't know how intentional that is.
Right.
But like, I think that's part of what makes it kind of charming, is that like, this is like an auteur movie, like with all the good and bad things of like there's a vision behind it. And a lot of the stuff that we watch, there's a true, like, there's a sense of like, why was this made? Not because like this movie was like, why would you make this? This is insane. But why would you make this? This is for nobody. This is boring. And so this movie is definitely not boring. But it raises a lot of questions.
Yeah. Who is this movie for?
Presumably for Cage's bank account. I mean, like, honestly, but the thing is he puts so much into it in comparison
he's
to
having
like,
a blast.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that being said, I would like to give the Poet Laureate badge
Oh my
to
God.
the scene where Nicolas Cage is like banging his girlfriend in like 8 different positions and reading from a book of poetry written by Nicolas Cage. Like on the cover of the book says by Nicolas Cage.
And it's true. He wrote it on set.
That's incredible. I paused because I saw that and I was like, there's no fucking way that says Nicolas Cage on the front of that book. I like paused it and went back to like just to be sure that
of all the
character...
wild things in this movie, that is the most surreal moment.
Yeah, and it also looks like just a PA printed out the cover. Like they had to wrap a book on. They like typed it in.
It
Word,
was like that blue like script revision paper too.
It looked like he made it in school and brought it home. Like it's held together with like brads.
Yeah. And like, what weird like sex talk is that? Like,
it's crazy.
That's
I
just
mean,
like, please
it's
read.
pathological to be reading your own poetry to this woman. Like what? It's just insane.
Again, I need this to be clear to anyone listening that the actor Nicolas Cage wrote the poetry that his character reads in a book by the actor Nicolas Cage.
His character's name is Joe. Like, he's a different guy.
He's not, I wonder if the Nicolas Cage in that universe actually is just a famous poet. Like he's
Oh my God.
He's like the Robert Frost of the Between Worlds
I
universe.
love that. Oh, man.
I want to give the banana hammock badge to Cage in this movie because he's got some great scenes in his underwear. Or am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is it. Yeah.
Yes, he is absolutely.
Yes, and
in
they
his
call
underwear.
it out. She asks, she's like, "What are you wearing?" And he's like, "What? It's nice."
And it's like extra tight.
Yeah. And it has flames on it, I think.
Yeah, there's it definitely looks like it was purchased from like a Hot Topic or something.
It's a symbol of his belief in individuality and personal freedom.
Yeah, which I mean, I think again fits the whole aesthetic of the movie for sure.
Sort of in the same vein, I would like to give this movie the truck man badge because he is such a truck driver, and he literally says the line, "A man without a truck isn't a man,"
which also is
is absurd.
No, Miles and I
say
definitely
that?
took note of that.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't know, but it's good.
I've been
Good
told.
information to have. Have your dreams become reality? Okay, listen very carefully. Do not dream about giant monsters attacking the city. I repeat, do not dream about giant monsters attacking the city.
Instead, head over to Apple Podcast and write a review for Bunk 237, Horror Movie Podcast. We promise to not release giant monsters in cities.
Probably me telling you to do not dream about it is making you dream about it, but don't dream about giant monsters attacking the city.
God damn it!
Now, moving on to number 2. Your number 2 pick was Vampire's Kiss from 1989. At the time, a box office flop, now a cult favorite. It's set in the late 80s, and it's a mad, mad, mad world for Peter Lowe, a spineless and mean literary agent in New York. He is a classically styled business suit yuppie of the era, a playboy type who ends up bringing home the wrong woman, aka a vampire, or so we think. The film is a big question mark. It's the 2 questions: is he turning into a vampire, or is he insane?
Both?
I don't know. What did you guys think of Vampires?
Had either of you seen this before?
I had not seen this.
I have not either.
Great. I love that answer.
I love that too.
I love people coming in fresh to this movie.
Yeah, same. I just want to listen. Yeah, what did y'all feel?
Yeah. Well,
What
let
did
me
you think?
counter. Have you guys seen Let's Scare Jessica to Death?
No.
No. Wait, is that from the 70s?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
We watched that recently, and Robin, did you notice that there was a similar theme of like someone kind of thinking they're turning into a vampire?
Yeah.
Or there being a question of
Of if what's happening is real or not. Yes, except it was sort of the opposite because Jessica is very sympathetic. Peter is not at all.
no, yeah, Peter is not sympathetic, and it's very clear by the end of the movie that he is insane.
I mean, it's kind of a proto-American Psycho in that respect.
It
You know, like
honestly
Totally.
is.
It reminded
Absolutely.
me of that for sure.
This is another one that seems to come from the mind of like one writer director person, but at the same time it seems unbelievable while you're watching it that like anybody would tonally choose to like steer a movie in this direction, because it's like the whiplash that you get scene to scene in this thing is like really intense. And I mean, is it ever really scary? It's
not really. It's, I mean, well, honestly, the scariest thing about it is like how rapey he is. Like, I feel like you do like it pushes the envelope in terms of like it's not a comedy, and like those scenes between Peter and Alva like get increasingly like, you know, I mean, I think honestly like the fact that he's probably not turning into a vampire, like they leave it. I mean, who knows? If he is or isn't, he's definitely also just like an insane asshole. And like those scenes are like unsettling, but he's such a cartoon that the tonal friction of that I still find kind of exciting. This movie, like, this is one where he wanted to do a lot of crazy shit and they're saying yes to him, and it's paying off in a way that like
I'll give my badge for this movie because it kind of nicely transitions from that. It's the ABCs of Nick Cage badge, because it truly is like it checks everything, every crazy thing that he ever does in any movie is in this movie, and he also literally screams the entire alphabet at one point.
A to Z. I'm telling you, he's the greatest actor of our generation. No one else could engage you like that.
And I think, at least for me personally, like this was the youngest I've seen him like go to that level. Mm-hmm. Like I mean, I'm sure there are other movies made before this, but this was like the movie
but this is
that
the
like
one.
Truly he like was like balls to the wall the whole time.
Yeah, this one's definitely the first film in his career where you get like the text for the Cage Freakout, and you can even tell it's sort of unrefined. You know, it's like listening to like a band's first record as compared to like their fourth or fifth. You know, it's like it's exciting,
like
it's dynamic, but it almost sounds like it almost sounds like he doesn't have it in control in a way that he'll really like perfect and refine it later on.
I mean, he really like thinks of acting in a way like what's the David Lynch quote? He calls him like the jazz musician of acting.
Yeah,
and it's true. He uses it. He thinks about like the way he says lines, the like just the pitch and tone of his voice, body movement, and everything. Like he's thinking like a musician, like using his body as an instrument, and the idea of like performance kind of in quotes, like he's not afraid to just perform in a way that's not natural.
That his particular acting in this, I think, is what is scary for me, because the portrayal of someone who is like getting manic and that unhinged, and especially towards women, and especially someone in a position of power, in a position of authority, that is scary. Like you're saying, it's uncomfortable. Those scenes when he's being so mean, and just being just aggressively mean, but no one in the office is stopping him from like yelling, you know.
And it's a significant portion of the movie too. Like I didn't realize it. I just rewatched it last Halloween season with my girlfriend because she'd never seen it, and I had forgotten until I watched it again that it's like him just being an actual like psycho in his day-to-day life is the majority of the movie before the weird vampire stuff kind of picks up. But on that note, how crazy is it? I've never seen an actor in a vampire movie do this where he sleeps with the couch. He like closes the couch over him like a coffin, right?
I have a badge. I have a badge for that specifically. It is the Bat Cage badge for Peter's excellent remodel of his apartment into a stealthy vampire lair. As you mentioned, the sort of upside down couch as the coffin is like the DIY upcycle of the decade. I thought that was so fucking funny. Like I could not.
So good.
I thought it was so hilarious. The best.
There's so much that's good. I love when he's trying to eat the pigeon, and his fangs, the plastic fangs that he gets.
Fangs, so good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a badge I can give him for that. I don't know, the American Dentist Association badge. Yeah.
Man, the gears in his manic brain that are putting this story together are incredible. But then, like, once he gets back up to his apartment, he's fighting with his fictional wife.
Oh yeah.
Right. Well, and then also there's the whole part where the bat flies in and he tries to like catch it or shoo it out of the window. It's like, where did that happen?
Did that happen?
Like,
right,
did he imagine that whole bat thing?
And the fact that the bat looks so fake, like, only adds to the surrealism of it.
Yeah, it's like
I don't know.
It's like a rubber Halloween decoration on a string.
Yeah.
He does eat a live cockroach in this movie, though. That did
Yes.
actually happen.
I took note of that because I was like, is that a vampire thing? I don't think so.
No, I think Cage just wanted to eat. He wanted to like
do it.
push the limits and eat a fucking roach on screen.
Well, but doesn't that
To
seem like
himself.
a Renfield thing, like from Dracula?
Oh, that's
sort
right.
of,
Yeah,
right?
Renfield
Oh,
eats like
okay.
flies and stuff.
Because
Yeah.
Renfield like eats
Okay,
bugs and
okay.
stuff. It's sort of like the vampire's intern has to do that all the time.
The vampire's intern.
I would watch that movie.
Just would like to say that on top of the alphabet, this movie has another one of my favorite Cage line readings where he goes, "Am I getting through to you, Alva?" Which is like really just I crack up every time he does that line.
And on that note, let's move on through. Your number one pick, which I don't want to speak for Robin, but I will for in this one instance. I think we agree with you 100,000% that this is the number one Nicolas Cage horror movie. And it's Mandy. Of course. So fucking good. The 2018 masterpiece is a hallucinatory revenge flick about a man mourning his dead wife. Again, naturally. And who goes on the most beautifully epic, bizarre, partially drug-induced rampage to track down and pay back the cult that killed his wife, Mandy. Sweet, soft, goth fairy of the woods, Mandy.
Oh, Mandy.
I love this
You
movie
came.
so much. I've seen this movie a bunch of times. It's one of my favorite horror movies, favorite Nicolas Cage movie. It is like across the board a movie that I absolutely love.
Yeah, this is pretty much, you can't get better than this. I mean, this is like the ultimate cult midnight movie in my opinion. Like, this is like better than El Topo. This is better than, like any of that shit. But
I agree.
This is also one of those movies that's like hard to talk about, kind of, because so much of it is experiential. That sounds so pretentious.
No,
that's
true,
experiential.
I'm supporting your pretentious statement.
Yeah. But it is definitely a horror movie. I think it's the only one on the list that we gave you that is 100% like on the mark, a horror movie.
Absolutely.
But it also, for some reason, to me, is like so much more than that. And I don't know if it's just because
for sure.
Like we can slight horror movies, which I disagree with, but there is some, like, people are horrorist in the sense that it's like can't be quote unquote serious cinema necessarily. But like,
right.
I dare you to watch this movie and tell me that it's not a finely constructed work of art. Like, it's perfect. I want to give the Eric Estrada from Chips badge for the joke that Cage, for the knock knock joke that Cage tells, which for my money is one of the funniest non sequiturs like I've ever heard. So it just goes Tuyet, knock knock.
Who's there?
Eric Estrada.
Eric Estrada who?
Eric Estrada from Chips. Okay. Anyway.
Amazing.
Although it's
amazing.
probably the only one on the list that is maybe the most like straightforward horror movie. I would say personally it's the least scary, however, because it's for me it's such a joyous romp of a revenge film. I mean, like the relationship between the two characters, like their beautiful relationship that is highlighted in very, very small ways, but you can tell how in love they are. how like special and unique their love was in this time period of both of their lives, and how painful that was to lose her. The bathroom scene when Nicolas Cage is just freaking out in his tidy whities in the shirt.
Okay. Yes, I have a special badge that I'd like to award. I have 2 badges for this movie, and one of them is the Memorial Nick Cage Bathroom Freakout badge, because there is also a bathroom freakout in Vampire's Kiss.
Oh, right.
Oh my
Yes,
god.
it is.
And I was like, hold on, this is the scene from Mandy.
Whoa.
He just loves the bathroom to go nuts in.
When I
doesn't?
saw that, my thought was sort of like, wow, did Vampires Kiss walk so that Mandy could run?
Yes, you heard it here first.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Because you can see
So
the
true.
progression. I mean, honestly, even I kind of
Yeah.
thought about like in a fictional world, sort of like if all these universes are connected, you know, except for the fact that his character in Vampire's Kiss dies at the end of that movie. I guess all of his characters die at the end of every movie. But if they didn't die, this could be like the same person, right? Like sort
Yeah.
of like who just kept losing his wife.
No, I love
But
that.
do you know what I mean? It's sort of
Yeah.
like
He had his like yuppie, horrible time in New York City in the 80s, moved out west, started logging,
Yeah.
he moved to upstate New York.
became a real melancholy guy. I have my badge for this movie is the Sweetie Pie Nick Cage badge, because as often as he freaks out in a bathroom and kills people with chainsaws and, you know, is smiling covered in blood in a car, he is pretty subdued in this movie and like legitimately gives a wonderful performance of being in love with this woman, and their relationship is so beautiful and so sweet and so quiet in like such a different way, and I just love it. I just love it so much. But it's still very Nick Cage somehow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The most Nick Cage. Like, it is so aggressively Nick Cage in the best way. Like, my badge was the Cage of Enlightenment badge, because he makes so many movies, but this is one of the great ones. This is a great Nicolas Cage movie. It is a great Nicolas Cage performance, and it really shows, I think, like, when he's good, he's great. And I think he was cast in this role impeccably.
Yeah, they reached out to him first to be the cult leader dude, and I think Cage wanted to play the straight role, and
They had to age him up because in the script he was like a lot
Right.
younger initially, and Cage was like, I want to play Red, so they kind of retooled it a little bit. But
it's great.
it's great, and I think that this movie really proves that Cage is only as good as his director.
Yeah,
Can kind of like rein him in. I don't want to say rein him
Use
in. 'cause-
him.
Yeah,
You just
yeah,
use him.
use
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Like kind of give him, you know, you cast Cage because you know what Cage does and you want it, but you have to put some guardrails on it. And I think it's a fine line to walk, especially with someone of Cage's caliber. You know, when you're a younger, maybe your first time director, you know, you might not feel as comfortable kind of, you know, taking that kind of like role with him. But I think when a director really like knows how to direct Cage, it makes all the difference in the world. I mean, it's like it's the difference between Tuyet, a movie like you watched with us on the episode that you were on.
A score to settle.
Yeah, where you
Oh,
just
God.
kind of cast Cage because that's what'll get your movie made, and then you just put him in front of as many setups as possible and try to finish the movie. Like, that is the worst case scenario, and
That one
it
is
is the best
still-
case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Score to Settle, by the way, anyone listening, is a terrible movie.
Don't watch it. Actually, you should listen to
should
the
watch-
episode that
yeah.
Tuyet guested on instead of watching
You
it.
should. You should listen to that episode. I fucking hated that movie more than any other that we've watched. It's the worst in my opinion, and that is really saying something. But yeah, Miles is completely right. Like, I mean, going back to David Lynch's like jazz musician quote, like it the same way, like Cage loves directors he can play off of, and all three of these films, like he had directors who were like using him at least and playing off of what he can do. He just gets inspired on set, and to the degree that you can be like, hey, do you want to write a book of poetry? And he'll like sit down and write something about a golden cock or whatever. Again, I would love to see him do more theater, like, because he really is a theatrical actor, and he loves to ad-lib, and he loves to like just play off of everything around him. So
Dave, if he actually did that, we'd have to go to every performance.
An episode for every live performance.
Oh God.
Well,
Yeah, I'll see you there.
Yeah, well, you guys mentioned this earlier. Well, Miles, you mentioned earlier that you guys are about, what, 7 or 8 Nicolas Cage movies from the end? Or from...
Well, from catching up to where he is now, but I guarantee that in the 4 months or whatever it takes us to get through those, that he's going to have released 1 or 2 others. So it is really a finish line that we like can never reach. Yeah. But
it's still like 3 to 4 to 5 to 8 episodes a year, you know?
Right.
The rate he's going.
Man, in like 2018 or 2019, he put out like 6 or 7 movies in 1 year. It's just like unreal.
It's making your job harder.
Unreal. Well, we will, until he retires or dies, we will be doing this podcast.
I know, we were just talking about that. We're like, I guess this is an ongoing, you know, there is no end point.
Yeah.
I wonder if it'll be like when Prince died, but they say that there's still like hundreds of albums that
he's in the vault.
If Nick Cage dies, are there going to be like hundreds of movies in the vault, just like increasingly bad performances in bad movies?
What will you guys do if you reach the end?
We've talked about a couple different things. We want to keep it Cage adjacent. I think there's ways to kind of try to maybe get interviews with people that have worked on his shoots, or kind of try to like tap into the greater Cage tree. Like we did an episode on his son's Instagram feed.
If we could interview Weston, that would be the biggest get. I mean, besides Cage himself, like I would love to talk to Weston.
But we've also talked about like what other actors would be good to do like this kind of run with. Someone that keeps coming up for some reason is Val Kilmer, even though like we decided that I think by the time you hit the 2000s it would get like really sad and kind of a bummer for the rest of it. And he also doesn't his range is nowhere near Cage's, so it would be a lot more boring, I think. But also Keanu is another name that's come up, which could
Keanu
be
is a good one. Yeah.
He's been some iconic roles. He's worked with some great people and like, but as a performer, he's so much more limited that like, I don't know, but I that's the direction I'm leaning with. We talked about Willem Dafoe.
That could
I don't
be
know.
good.
Yeah, but it is funny. Like really nobody has a career arc like Cage's. Like nobody has the same kinds of peaks and valleys in the same way. Like it's a very weird thing.
And also I think this could just be, because he's done 100 movies or whatever, but I don't think anyone else's career dovetails as well with like the changing trends and tides in Hollywood as Cage's has since he started. So I think it's really good because his career is kind of a microcosm of like what's happening, in movie making in general. So
did you guys have honorable mentions for this list that didn't
we
did.
Oh my God, yes. What else was on our list that we Wicker Man, obviously. Pay the Ghost,
which is a 2015 movie where a ghost like steals his son or something, and he has to like go get him back.
Get his son back from the land of the dead. But
that one is way more of like a straightforward kind of B movie horror. It's not very good.
It's not
I wouldn't
scary.
recommend
it's not very
it.
good.
Yeah, I think it's actually less scary than Between Worlds, even though it's more of a horror movie. And also both Ghost Riders, while also not strictly horror movies, there's some pretty freaky shit. I mean, he's comes from hell with a flaming skull. That's pretty scary, I guess.
Spirit of Vengeance is better than people think. That one is directed by the Crash, or no, not Crash. What were those movies? Crank, yeah, those guys. So it has some of that energy, which is fun.
I'd also like to give a badge to the Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance because Idris Elba has a cameo in this movie.
Oh my God.
And so the badge I'm going to give it is the Spirit of Vengeance badge, because Idris Elba, when he says Spirit of Vengeance every time with that accent, it is the sexiest thing I've ever heard.
Oh man, now I have to watch.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that for sure. Let that man talk to me. I'll let him say anything. I don't care.
Spirit of Vengeance.
There's also Dave. What was the one with the Season of the Witch?
Oh God.
One.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's sort of going for like a Hammer horror thing, but it doesn't work.
Famously,
at all.
does not even feature a witch in it at all.
No, there's no witch.
Demon.
It's about demons. No seasons. It's just a one time.
And I would like to give the PS2 CGI badge to Season of the Witch, because the protagonist, a flaming demon, is completely CGI. The whole climax is Cage fighting CGI fire, basically.
Awesome.
It's terrible.
Yeah. That one's bad. Mom and Dad. That's a one that is good enough that you should watch it, but not good enough that, it's kind of it's got some good moments in it, and like the premise is kind of fun. I wanted to mention The Ant Bully as well, which is not a horror movie. This is a children's movie, but it's a CGI movie about ants, and Nicolas Cage plays an ant wizard. and they there's a child who is messing with the ants, and the ant wizard shrinks him down while he's naked, and they carry him away into their ant colony and teach him about being kind to each other. And it's as disturbing as a horror movie.
It's really the CGI in this movie, or even I don't know. I think with a different tone, and if it wasn't a kids movie, this could easily be a horror movie. Like the whole setup is just terrifying. And thanks for mentioning that, Dave. I'd forgotten about that fucking train wreck.
I told you I would.
Thank you so much for coming on and telling us about every Nicolas Cage movie we could ever want to know about.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to go listen to our podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you get podcasts. We have 90-something episodes, and we're going to keep going. So if there's a Cage movie you're curious about, but you don't actually want to watch it,
yes,
we have spent an equal amount of time as the runtime of the movie talking about that movie. So just go listen to it.
What a deal. But you can listen to us while you drive to work or something, and imagine the Nicolas Cage movie as if you were watching it, and the just most clever and insightful people in the world were sitting there just yammering about it at you. Thank you guys so much for having both of us in the bunk. And it's been really lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Again, that is
awesome. Thank you.
Heat-Seeking Panther. Find it wherever you find podcasts, like however you found this podcast. Last question. Can you guys say goodbye in your best Nicolas Cage voice?
Goodbye.
That was Buffalo Bill. That was 100% Buffalo Bill.
Do you want to say goodbye to me?
Bunk 237, a horror movie podcast, stars Tuyet and Robin Zlotnick as the final girls of Bunk 237, and introducing Alex Skoke as camp director Susan Check. The show is produced by me, Shane Segretti. Our theme song is written and performed by Dan Zlotnick, and our outro music is written and performed by Axe Slasher. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and it may be featured on an upcoming episode. Have a badge of your own for this movie? Follow us on Instagram at Bunk237Pod and Twitter at Bunk237 and let us know. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded.